After the simulator incident, something changed at the academy. The human cadets were no longer seen as just strange creatures with odd habits. They had proven their value in a crisis. Now, many alien cadets wanted to learn from them. One morning, Zaxtol entered the study hall to find several alien cadets sitting with Daniel. On the table were various human focus aids, fidget spinners, stress balls, and clicking pens. The aliens were cautiously trying them out. "Squeeze it harder," Daniel was saying to a nervous Lumeri cadet holding a stress ball. "It won't break, and neither will you." Zaxtol approached the group. "What's happening here?" "Cultural exchange, Part 2, Daniel grinned. Some folks wanted to try human concentration techniques. A Castri cadet clicked a pen rapidly, his feathers fluffing with excitement. "It's strange, but I think it helps. I solved a spatial reasoning problem while clicking this." Not everyone was convinced. Some species found the constant movement and noise more distracting than helpful. But a surprising number discovered benefits in the human methods. Later that week, Principal Director Norvanth made an announcement. Following recent events, the Academy is implementing a new approach to training. We will now offer what we're calling human-style options for all cadets. These new options included study rooms with background noise, exercise equipment that could be used while studying, and more dynamic training simulations. Attendance was optional, but many alien cadets were curious enough to try. Zaxtol found himself in the fidget room one evening, struggling with a difficult mathematics problem. He had been staring at it for hours with no progress. "Try this," Daniel said, handing him a small metal object. "It's a puzzle cube. Play with it while you think." Zaxtol was skeptical but took the cube. As his fingers worked the small metal pieces, something unexpected happened. His mind seemed to relax, and the solution to the math problem suddenly became clear. "This is unusual," Zaxtol admitted. "It seems counterintuitive that dividing my attention would help me focus." "For some brains, it works," Daniel explained. "The theory is that the small movement occupies the part of your brain that would otherwise get restless and distract you." News of the Academy's experimental training methods spread across the Galactic Union. Soon, a research team arrived to study what they called human cognitive processes. The lead researcher, Dr. Vixna, spent days interviewing human cadets and observing their habits. "Your species fascinates me," she told Daniel as Zaxtol listened nearby. "Most intelligent species evolved from prey animals that survived by being still and vigilant. But humans, we evolved from prey that became predators," Daniel finished. "We had to be still to hide from bigger predators, but also active to hunt. Our brains developed to handle both." Dr. Vixna took extensive notes. "And this explains your need for constant stimulation. Your bodies remember the need to be ready to run or fight at any moment." "Something like that," Daniel agreed. "Even now, our brains produce chemicals that prepare us for danger. When there is no real danger, we sometimes create small, safe stresses to use that energy." The research team also studied how humans had begun teaching their methods to other species. They discovered that species with similar evolutionary paths, those that had also evolved on more dangerous worlds, were most likely to benefit from human techniques. Zaxtol himself had become something of an expert on human concentration hacks, as they were now called. He found that gentle physical stimulation helped him during complex mathematics, though he still preferred traditional Viridian meditation for language studies. The most important lesson, Zaxtol explained to a group of first-year cadets, is that different brains work differently. What seems chaotic may actually be another form of order. As the semester continued, the Academy became a laboratory for new teaching methods. Human cadets learned meditative techniques from other species that helped them manage their constant need for stimulation. In turn, they taught others how to use controlled chaos to achieve focus. For the first time in its 500-year history, The Galactic Union Military Academy was truly becoming a place where all species could learn from each other's strengths. 6 months had passed since the humans first arrived at the Galactic Union Military Academy. The end of semester ceremonies approached, and the academy was barely recognizable compared to its beginning state. Training rooms now featured options for every species learning style. The library had quiet zones and active zones. The range had sections for every type of concentration technique. Zach Stoll stood in front of the mirror in his dormitory, adjusting his formal uniform. Next to him, Daniel was doing the same, though the human was also bobbing his head to music only he could hear through small earpieces. "Hard to believe the semester is almost over," Zach Stoll said. Daniel removed one earpiece. "Yeah, feels like we just got here. Are you nervous about giving your presentation today?" Zach Stoll asked. "Nah," Daniel replied with a casual shrug. "Public speaking is easier than live fire exercises." The final project for first-year cadets was a demonstration of skills learned throughout the semester. Daniel would be showing a new combat technique that combined human adaptability with alien precision. Zach Stoll had been selected to give the graduation speech, a great honor for a first-year cadet. The ceremony hall was packed with academy staff, cadets, and visitors from across the galaxy. News of the human integration experiment had spread, and many officials wanted to see the results firsthand. Principal Director Norvanth opened the ceremony. 6 months ago, we began an unprecedented experiment. We welcomed humans, a species from a Class 12 death world, into our academy. Many doubted this integration would succeed. She paused, her compound eyes scanning the room. Those doubts have been thoroughly disproven. The skills demonstrations began. Daniel showed his new hybrid fighting technique. Olivia presented a modified simulator program that could adapt to different species' reaction times. Kyle demonstrated a mathematical model he had developed to predict how different species would respond to stress. Most impressive was a joint presentation by human and alien cadets showing their cross-species learning techniques. Aliens demonstrated using human focus aids while humans showed how they had adopted alien meditation practices. Finally, it was time for Zach Stoll's speech. He walked to the podium carrying a small clicking device in his hand. The audience murmured in surprise as he clicked it a few times before beginning. When humans first arrived at our academy, many of us were confused, concerned, or even frightened. Zach Stoll began. Their strange habits and dangerous training methods seemed completely opposite to everything we knew about learning and concentration. He clicked the device again, drawing a few chuckles from the crowd. "Yes, I am using the human concentration aid while giving this speech," he admitted. 6 months ago, I would have found this inappropriate. Today, I understand that different minds work in different ways. Zach Stoll went on to describe how the academy had been transformed, how humans had learned from alien species and aliens had learned from humans, how their different evolutionary paths had created different needs, all equally valid. "The greatest lesson we have learned is that diversity makes us stronger," he concluded. "What seems chaotic to one species may be perfect order to another. What looks like disrespect may be the highest form of attention. And sometimes, the sound of danger is exactly what someone needs to find peace." After the ceremony, news arrived that changed everything. The Galactic Union had approved 3 times as many human applicants for the next year. And not just humans. Other species from challenging worlds were being actively recruited. As Zach Stoll helped Daniel pack for the short break between semesters, he noticed something unusual on the desk of an alien cadet passing by. "Is that a projectile weapon cleaning kit?" he asked in surprise. The alien, a reptilian Drax, nodded. "Yes, started training with the humans last month. The focus it requires. It's perfect for my mind." Daniel grinned. "Told you it would catch on." Later that day, Zach Stoll visited the shooting range one last time before break. He put on ear protection, checked his stance, and raised the pistol. As the sound of gunfire filled the air, he found his mind becoming perfectly clear. Ready to fire, he told the range instructor. "Why are you smiling?" the instructor asked. "Because I finally understand," Zax Toll replied. "Sometimes you need a little danger to feel completely safe." He pulled the trigger, hitting the target dead center. The sound of gunfire now a comfort rather than a shock. The Deathworlders had changed the galaxy, one loud bang at a time. 3 weeks into the semester, the cadets received their schedule for weapons training. Every military officer in the Galactic Union needed basic proficiency with standard-issue weapons. Zax Toll had been looking forward to this. Viridians were naturally good shots due to their excellent vision. The cadets gathered in the main hall for a briefing before heading to the training range. Senior instructor John Kelly stood at the front, alongside another human instructor and several alien range masters. "Today begins your weapons qualification training," Kelly announced. "Most of you will be using the XP5 training pistol. It fires harmless light pulses that register on the target screens." He held up a sleek pistol with glowing blue lines along its barrel. "However," Kelly continued, "the human cadets will be training in Section C with live ammunition weapons." A shocked murmur ran through the crowd. Zax Toll felt his mouth drop open. Live ammunition in training? That was unheard of. Live ammunition was only used in actual combat situations or in final qualification tests for senior officers. After the briefing, Zax Toll caught up with Daniel as he headed toward Section C of the range. "Is it true? You're using real weapons that could kill someone?" Daniel nodded casually. "Yeah, standard procedure for us. We always train with what we'll actually use in the field. But it's dangerous." "That's kind of the point," Daniel said. "A weapon should feel dangerous. That's how you learn to respect it." Zax Toll couldn't help himself. He followed Daniel to Section C, staying in the observation area behind protective glass. What he saw amazed him. The human cadets were each issued what looked like primitive weapons compared to the sleek Galactic Union standard pistols. These weapons had more solid parts, no glowing elements, and made loud explosive sounds when fired. Each shot released a small cloud of smoke and sent a metal projectile downrange at incredible speed. Even more shocking was how the humans behaved while firing. Daniel had put some kind of music player in his ears. Olivia was chewing something while she aimed. Kyle seemed to be talking to himself as he fired round after round. After the session, Zax Toll waited outside for Daniel. "Why were you all doing other things while shooting? I saw you listening to music." "Oh yeah," Daniel said, removing his ear protection. "Heavy metal helps me focus. Olivia chews gum, and Kyle recites math problems. We all have our things. You need distractions to concentrate on firing a deadly weapon." Zax Toll could barely get the words out. "Not distractions, focus aids," Daniel corrected. "Most humans concentration better with a little sensory input. Complete focus on one thing can actually make us perform worse." Word spread quickly through the academy. Soon, a group of alien cadets gathered at the observation window to watch the humans train. They couldn't believe what they were seeing. In their cultures, weapons training was treated with solemn silence and single-minded focus. Professor Zilnax noticed the crowd and joined them at the window. "Fascinating. Simply fascinating," the insectoid said, mandibles clicking. "They create controlled chaos to achieve focus." Zax Toll was still troubled. "But Professor, isn't it disrespectful to treat deadly weapons so casually?" "Is it casual, though?" the professor replied. "Look at their results." The targets at the end of the range showed tight groupings of holes. Despite what seemed like divided attention, the humans were hitting their targets with remarkable accuracy. Senior Instructor Kelly noticed the audience and approached the observation window. "I see our little demonstration has drawn some attention. Why are humans trained this way?" someone asked. "Because that's how combat is," Kelly explained. "Loud, chaotic, full of distractions. We train as we fight. Humans have learned that perfect conditions never exist in real situations, so we create imperfect conditions in training. Zax Toll made a new entry in his human observation file. Humans deliberately train under suboptimal conditions to prepare for reality. They use apparent chaos to achieve focus that other species achieve through order and calm. He was beginning to understand. These Deathworlders weren't just physically different. Their entire approach to learning and concentration was alien. The Academy announced a cultural exchange day to help species learn more about each other. Each group would set up displays about their homeworld, traditions, and daily life. Zax Toll spent days preparing a beautiful display about Viridia, with its low-gravity gardens and delicate crystal cities. "What are you humans planning to show?" Zax Toll asked Daniel, who seemed to be preparing very little. "Oh, just some everyday stuff from Earth," Daniel replied casually. "Things that help us get through our day." On the morning of the cultural exchange, the main hall transformed into a colorful exhibition of worlds across the galaxy. The Lumari created a beautiful light display that mimicked their crystal homeworld. The Castri built a mini version of their floating nest cities. Zax Toll's display included scented plants from Viridia that released calming aromas. The human section looked strange by comparison. Daniel, Olivia, Kyle, and the other human cadets had set up what looked like a collection of random objects on their table. "Welcome to Earth stuff," Daniel announced as aliens gathered around. "These are things that help humans focus and concentrate." He held up a small cube with buttons and switches on each side. "This is a fidget cube. Humans use it during meetings or while thinking." He demonstrated by clicking and spinning various parts of it. Olivia showed off something called a stress bulb, the humans squeezed when tense or thinking hard. Kyle displayed a collection of chewing gums in different flavors. "The action of chewing helps many humans think better," he explained. The most popular item was a spinning metal toy that Daniel called a fidget spinner. Aliens took turns trying to spin it, many finding it oddly satisfying. "But these are just toys," said a Castri cadet, his feathers twitching in confusion. "Not to us," Daniel explained. "On Earth, we've learned that many humans think better when their hands are busy or they have some kind of sensory input. It's especially true for people with certain brain types." Principal Director Norvanth visited the human display, her compound eyes taking in everything. "Fascinating adaptations," she commented. "But I understand there's more to show." Daniel nodded and pointed to a screen they had set up. "We wanted to show some concentration techniques used by human students." He tapped the screen, and it showed humans in various study environments. Some listened to music while working. Others bounced on exercise balls instead of sitting in chairs. One scene showed a study group in what looked like a noisy cafe. "This is how many humans prefer to study," Olivia explained, with background noise and activity. Then came the part that changed everything. The screen showed human military personnel training. They were running obstacle courses while instructors fired guns near them. Medical students practiced procedures while loud emergency sounds played. Pilots trained in simulators that shook violently. "Sometimes we use stress to focus," Daniel explained. "The sound of gunfire or explosions can actually help some humans concentrate in high-pressure situations. It triggers our fight-or-flight response in a controlled way." "Are those real weapons being fired?" asked a horrified Lumari cadet. "Yes," Kyle said simply. "In fact, some human students listen to recordings of gunfire as white noise to study." The Lumari cadet's crystalline body turned a pale blue color, and she suddenly toppled over. Several other aliens backed away from the display in shock. Medical staff had to be called to treat 3 cadets for shock. Zax Toll remained, fascinated but disturbed. "You used the sound of death as study music?" he asked quietly. Daniel looked genuinely confused by the reaction. "It's just sound. Rhythmic, predictable patterns help some brains focus. For species that evolved on dangerous worlds, these sounds became familiar." After the cultural exchange, the Academy administrators held an emergency meeting. Zax Toll overheard 2 instructors talking outside the meeting room. "Perhaps humans are too dangerous to integrate with the other species," one said. But their skills are valuable, replied the other. And understanding these differences is exactly why we started the integration program. Zaxtol found himself nodding in agreement with the second instructor. Despite their strangeness, or perhaps because of it, humans brought something new to the academy, something that might someday prove essential. The first physical training session was scheduled bright and early the next morning. Zaxtol arrived at the training field 10 minutes early, as was proper for a Viridian of good standing. He was surprised to find Daniel and the other humans already there, stretching and jogging in place. "Morning," Daniel called out cheerfully. "Ready for some exercise?" Zaxtol noted how the humans seemed to vibrate with energy despite the early hour. "I have prepared myself adequately," he replied formally. More alien cadets arrived, forming groups based on their species. The avian castri stayed together, their feathers fluffed up against the artificial morning chill. The crystalline Lumeri stood perfectly still, absorbing light to power themselves for the day's activities. Instructor Kylor flew down from her perch, her wings spreading wide as she landed gracefully before the assembled cadets. Her sharp beak clicked as she spoke. "Today we assess your physical capabilities," she announced. "Each species will be tested according to their biological baseline. The course is designed with adjustable difficulty." She pointed to a series of obstacles that stretched across the large training field. Walls to climb, ditches to jump, weights to lift, and a water hazard to cross. "Cadets will run the course in groups of 6, Kylor continued. "First group, Zaxtol, Daniel Martinez, Glix of Tarn, Olivia Washington, Prilnak, and Zine 7. Zaxtol felt his skin pale slightly. He was grouped with 2 humans. This would be embarrassing. The 6 cadets lined up at the starting position. Zaxtol noticed that both humans were bouncing slightly on their toes, looking eager. The starting tone sounded, and they were off. Zaxtol moved as quickly as his thin legs would carry him. He was considered quite athletic among his people. He reached the first obstacle, a 2-meter wall, and began to carefully climb it using the provided handholds. A blur of motion passed him. Daniel had simply jumped, grabbed the top of the wall, and pulled himself over in one fluid motion. Seconds later, Olivia did the same. By the time Zaxtol reached the top, both humans were already at the weightlifting station. The weights were calibrated for each species. Zaxtol's would be set to a challenging but manageable 20 units. The humans would be. Zaxtol almost fell off the wall. Daniel was casually lifting a weight marked with 120 units. Olivia was handling 100. They weren't even straining. The rest of the course went similarly. The humans leaped over the ditch that Zaxtol had to carefully navigate. They swam through the water hazard like water-dwelling creatures while he doggy-paddled. They completed the course in less than half the time of the fastest alien. After everyone had finished, Kylor gathered them again. Her feathers were slightly ruffled as she addressed the humans. "This course was clearly insufficient for your species," she said. "We had been briefed on human physical capabilities, but—" "It's okay, Mom," Olivia said. "This was a nice warm-up. Maybe next time we could add some weight packs." "Warm-up?" Prilnak wheezed through his breathing apparatus. "I nearly died." The instructor tapped something on her datapad. "Human cadets will report to Training Field B tomorrow. We've prepared special accommodations." As they walked back to the dormitories, Zaxtol couldn't contain his curiosity any longer. "Your physical abilities are quite impressive," he said to Daniel. "Is everyone on Earth so strong?" Daniel laughed. "Me? I'm average at best. You should see our professional athletes." "Is it because of your high-gravity world?" "Partly," Daniel said, "but also because of our history. For thousands of years, humans had to be strong and fast just to survive. We evolved that way." That evening, Zaxtol started a note file on his datapad titled Human Observations. The first entry read, "Physical capabilities far exceed initial estimates. Recommend revising training protocols." The next day, Zaxtal snuck over to Training Field B to watch the human training session. What he saw made his four hearts skip beats. The humans were running the same course, but now wearing heavy packs. The gravity had been turned up. Fire jets occasionally burst from the ground, and they were still completing it faster than any other species had done the standard course. Zaxtal made another note. Humans don't just survive in harsh conditions. They thrive in them. The shining halls of the Galactic Union Military Academy had never seen anything like the humans before. The Academy, built within a massive space station orbiting a peaceful gas giant, had trained the finest military minds from over 300 species for the last 5 centuries. But this year was different. This year, they would accept cadets from Earth. Zaxtal pressed his four-fingered hand against the transparent wall of his dormitory as he waited. His thin blue skin reflected the artificial light as his large eyes blinked nervously. The Viridian cadet had grown up hearing stories about humans. Everyone in the academy had. They came from a death world, a planet with crushing gravity, extreme weather, and animals that would eat you alive. Most alien species thought these stories were just tall tales. "You must be my roommate," a voice said from behind. Zaxtal jumped and spun around. He hadn't even heard the door open. A human stood there, not much taller than Zaxtal, but built completely differently. Where Zaxtal was thin and delicate, the human was solid muscle. The human smiled, showing flat teeth that still somehow looked dangerous. "I'm Daniel Martinez. Nice to meet you," the human said, extending a hand. Zaxtal had been briefed on human greetings. He carefully took the human's hand, feeling the strange warmth and strength in it. "I am Zaxtal of the third nest of Viridia. I welcome you to our shared living space," he said carefully. Daniel tossed his bag onto the empty bed. The bag hit with a thud that made Zaxtal flinch. What was in there? Rocks. "Hope you don't mind, but I brought a few things from home," Daniel said, unzipping the bag. Zaxtal watched in horror as Daniel pulled out several objects made of dead trees. "Are those plant corpses?" he asked. Daniel laughed. "They're books. Paper books. I like the feel of actual pages. Most humans use digital now, but I'm old-fashioned." Next came out a set of metal objects that made Zaxtal's eyes widen. "Are those weapons?" "What? No, these are just my weights. For working out." Daniel picked up one of the small metal discs and casually tossed it from hand to hand. "Only 20 pounds. Left the heavy ones at home." Zaxtal tried to convert that to galactic standard units and gasped. The human was playing with a weight that would crush most Viridians. Daniel continued unpacking, setting up pictures on his side of the room. In one, he was jumping off a cliff with only a rope tied to his ankles. In another, he was swimming in an ocean full of creatures with sharp teeth. "Is that for fun?" Zaxtal asked, pointing to the cliff jumping picture. "Bungee jumping. Yeah, it's a blast. Gets your heart pumping, you know," Daniel said cheerfully. Zaxtal didn't know. His species avoided anything that might make their hearts pump faster than necessary. A bell sound echoed through the dormitory. "That's the orientation call," Zaxtal said, grateful for the interruption. They walked together to the main hall, where hundreds of alien cadets gathered. Zaxtal noticed that other aliens were giving Daniel a wide berth. He also saw 5 other humans scattered throughout the crowd. They were easy to spot. They were the only ones fidgeting. Principal Director Norvanth rose on her 6 legs at the front of the hall, her compound eyes scanning the crowd. "Welcome to the 512th class of the Galactic Union Military Academy," she said, her translator making her clicks and whistles into understandable speech. "This year marks a historic first as we welcome cadets from Earth." A murmur ran through the crowd. Zaxtal saw Daniel stand a little straighter. "Humans come from a Class 12 death world," Norvanth continued. "Their biology and psychology reflect this. They will have separate physical training requirements and some specialized coursework. I expect all cadets to show appropriate curiosity and respect." After the orientation, an instructor pulled the human cadets aside. Zach's tool lingered nearby, close enough to hear. "Remember, you're ambassadors for Earth," the instructor, another human named John Kelly, told them. "Try not to scare anyone. No talking about extreme sports, no showing off your strength, and for Star's sake, don't mention your combat training yet." As Daniel walked back to join Zach's toll, the Viridian wondered what kind of species needed to be reminded not to scare others. He would soon find out. 2 months into the semester, the Academy scheduled a space station docking exercise. This was an important test for first-year cadets. They would use a simulator to practice emergency docking procedures. Zach's toll had studied the manual thoroughly and felt prepared. The cadets gathered at the simulator facility, a massive room with 6 docking simulators that looked like small spacecraft. Each pod would hold 4 cadets who would work together to complete the exercise. "This exercise tests your ability to function under pressure," Instructor Kylor explained. "Your pod will suffer a systems failure during docking. You must fix the problem and complete docking safely." Teams were assigned, and Zach's tool found himself grouped with a Lumeri named Ilara, a Castri named Prilnak, and Daniel. Zach's toll secretly felt relieved to have a human on the team. Despite their strangeness, humans had proven adaptable in crisis situations. The teams entered their pods and the exercise began. Their simulated spacecraft approached a space station smoothly at first. Then warnings flashed across their control panels. "Power fluctuation detected," the computer announced. "Main systems failing." Zach's toll's hands moved quickly over his navigation controls. Prilnak worked on communications while Ilara monitored life support. Daniel took the engineer position, trying to restore power. Main power dropping to 15%. Ilara reported, her crystalline form glowing dimly in concern. Suddenly, a loud alarm blared through the facility. This wasn't part of the simulation. "Emergency in Simulator 3, announced the facility's real computer system. Power surge detected. Safety protocols failing." Instructor Kylor's voice came over the communication system. "All teams, exit your simulators immediately. This is not part of the exercise." Zach's toll's team quickly left their pod. In the main room, they saw that Simulator 3 was flashing with red warning lights. Inside were 4 cadets, Olivia, Kyle, and 2 alien cadets named Glix and Zine7. "The safety system is malfunctioning," a technician explained frantically. "The pod is sealed, and life support is failing. The emergency release isn't working." "How long do they have?" asked Principal Director Norvanth, who had arrived quickly. 20 minutes at most before oxygen levels become dangerous," the technician replied. The situation was serious. The simulator was designed to be extremely realistic, with actual airtight seals and limited emergency oxygen. A team of engineers worked frantically at a control panel, trying to override the safety systems. "The main control circuit is fried," one engineer reported. "We need to manually rewire the emergency release from inside the maintenance tunnel." The maintenance tunnel was a narrow passage that ran behind the simulators. It was hot, dark, and filled with electrical equipment. "I'll go," Daniel volunteered immediately. "Me too," said Olivia's roommate, a human cadet named Amy Porter, who had been watching from nearby. "It's too dangerous," Instructor Kylor protested. "The tunnel has minimal oxygen and temperatures over 40 degrees. "That's just a warm day on Earth," Amy said, already removing her academy jacket. "We need someone who can work in those conditions." There was no time to argue. The humans were given emergency toolkits and earpieces for communication. Kyle, watching the situation from inside the trapped simulator, contacted them through his communicator. "I'll guide you through the rewiring," he said. "I studied the simulator schematics last week." Zach's toll watched in amazement as the rescue operation unfolded. Daniel and Amy squeezed into the maintenance tunnel while Kyle directed them. The most astonishing part was how Kyle remained completely calm while trapped in a failing pod. To help himself think, he had taken apart his personal tablet and was reassembling it with one hand while talking the rescue team through complex electrical instructions. How can he focus on calculations when his oxygen is running out? Zach's tool asked no one in particular. That's just it, said Instructor Kelly, who stood nearby. Humans often perform best under pressure. The danger focuses their minds. 15 tense minutes later, there was a loud click, and the door to Simulator 3 swung open. The trapped cadets emerged, shaken but unharmed. The aliens needed medical attention for stress, but Olivia and Kyle seemed almost energized by the experience. Zach's tool added to his human observations. In crisis situations that paralyze other species with fear, humans find unusual clarity and focus. The worse things get, the calmer they become. After a week of physical training, academic classes finally began. Zach's toll was eager for this part. While humans clearly dominated in physical abilities, surely the classroom would level the playing field. After all, Viridians were known across the galaxy for their focus and academic excellence. The first class was Galactic History and Protocol. Zach's toll arrived early and chose a seat near the front. Daniel slouched in next to him a few minutes later, carrying a cup of dark liquid that smelled bitter. "What is that substance?" Zach's toll asked, pointing at the cup. "Coffee," Daniel replied, taking a big sip. "Helps me focus. Contains caffeine. It's a stimulant." Zach's toll blinked in confusion. "You take stimulants to focus. My species uses calming herbs to clear the mind." Daniel shrugged. Different brains, different needs. The instructor, a tall insectoid named Professor Zilmax, began the lecture. Zach's toll sat perfectly still, absorbing every word, his eyes never leaving the professor. This was the proper way to show respect and attention. 10 minutes into the lecture, Zach's toll became aware of an annoying sound. Tap, tap, tap. Tap, tap, tap. He glanced sideways. Daniel was rapidly tapping his stylus against the desk while taking notes. The human didn't even seem to realize he was doing it. Tap, tap, tap. The noise continued. Zach's toll tried to focus on the lecture, but the tapping was distracting. How could Daniel be learning anything while making such noise? On Daniel's other side sat Olivia Washington. She wasn't tapping anything, but her leg was bouncing up and down under the desk. Another human across the room was spinning something small and metallic between his fingers. None of the instructors said anything about this behavior. Were they allowing it out of politeness? Surely this showed disrespect. After class, Zach's toll confronted Daniel. "Why were you making noise during the lecture? Is this a human way to show boredom?" Daniel looked surprised. "What noise?" "Oh, the tapping." "No, that helps me focus." "Movement helps you focus." Zach's toll was genuinely confused. "Yeah, if I sit completely still, my mind wanders. I need to move something to keep my brain engaged on what I'm hearing." This made no sense to Zach's toll. In his culture, perfect stillness was the sign of perfect concentration. Movement meant distraction. Later that day, in the study hall, Zach's toll observed more strange human behavior. Olivia was listening to something through earpieces while studying star charts. Kyle Johnson was chewing on something while reading. Another human was standing up rather than sitting, swaying slightly as she reviewed notes. Zach's toll approached Olivia carefully. "Excuse me, are you listening to music while studying?" She removed one earpiece. "Yeah, white noise actually, ocean sounds. Helps me tune out other distractions." "But isn't that itself a distraction?" Olivia smiled. "For you, maybe. For humans, having some background noise often helps us focus on the main task. Complete silence can be distracting." "That is very strange," Zach's toll admitted. "We evolved as prey animals that became predators," Kyle explained, joining the conversation. "Our brains are always scanning for threats. Too much quiet makes us nervous. Background noise tells part of our brain everything's normal, so we can focus with the rest." Zaxtoul added this to his growing list of human observations. Humans require sensory input to focus, stillness, and silence, which aid concentration in most species, actually hinder human focus. Later that week, several instructors held a meeting about the human cadets. Zaxtoul overheard them as he passed by the conference room. Their constant movement is disturbing other students, one instructor said. But their test scores are excellent, another pointed out. Whatever they're doing, it works for them. The academy decided to create a separate study area for humans, where they could fidget, tap, click, and move around without bothering the other species. The humans called it the fidget room, and soon it was filled with stress balls, clicking devices, and music players. Zaxtoul found it all fascinating, but the true shock was still to come.